Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the horror adventure films from 2024, titled Monster Summer. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The movie opens in a cabin in the woods, where we see a young boy escaping by shattering the window. He bolts away from there, while a witch-like figure emerges from the house, and picks up the gun the boy left behind, and licks a blood-smeared glass. The panicked kid stumbles through the woods, where he hides an envelope in his bag as he desperately searches for his gun, which is gone. He's filled with fear as the witch's laughter breaks through the silence, and a blinding light shines on him. That night, an officer finds the boy, and recognizes him as Ronnie Harlow, but the boy is in a trance-like state and only stares with a soulless gaze without saying anything. Next, we learn that the movie takes place in 1997, on a small island called Martha's Vineyard. We meet a young boy named Noah, who lives with his mother, Abby, and his little sister. The family owns a beautiful house by the beach, and rents out rooms during the summer. This morning, they meet a new tenant named Miss Halverson, who is strangely dressed head to toe in black. Later, Noah meets an editor named Edgar, and hands him a news story about a stalker who has been peeping on a local woman. But Edgar refuses to publish it, insisting this is the safest place in the country, where people come to relax in the summer, not to be frightened. He acknowledges Noah's determination to carry on his father's legacy, but advises him to write something more lighthearted. Afterward, Noah wins a baseball match, and heads home with his close friends, Eugene, Sammy, and Ben. On their way, they pass by the house of a mysterious man named Gene Carruthers. It turns out that there have been disturbing rumors about him since 1965, when his wife and children disappeared without a trace. Noah believes their bodies are still buried on the property, and he wants to sneak inside and investigate, hoping it will give him a thrilling story for the newspaper. Upon hearing this, his friends are annoyed because Noah always drags them into trouble, but they decide to join him anyway. The kids sneak inside and notice Gene digging, which deepens their suspicions. While the old man steps away, they slip into his barn, where Noah notices an old box, but before he can see what's inside, Gene returns, and grabs the box before leaving. But then all of a sudden,
we're good.
Noah suddenly remembers he left his backpack inside, but his friends urge him to forget it before they all ride away from there. Later that night, Ben arrives for his date at the beach and meets a young girl, Ellie, while a mysterious figure dressed in black watches them from a distance. The two then begin swimming in the water when, suddenly, an old woman warns them that it's dangerous for children to be in the sea so late at night. The woman starts approaching them, and plunges into the water, right before Ellie is dragged into the water by the woman. Ben immediately dives in to save her, only for the woman to grab him and pull him down deeper. Soon, a blinding light erupts from the water, allowing Ellie to escape the terrifying scene. The next morning, when Noah leaves his home, he finds his backpack outside, which also contains a book left by Gene. Noah then heads to meet Ben, only to see his mom talking to a police officer about what happened last night. The officer reassures her that Ben is okay, explaining that he's simply experiencing PTSD after nearly drowning. This worries Noah, so he approaches his friend, but shockingly, Ben doesn't respond at all. He just stares soullessly, exactly like the boy from the beginning of the movie. Later, Noah finds a shaken Ellie, and asks her what exactly happened the night before. She recounts everything about the old woman grabbing them, and also the blinding flash of light. She suspects the woman was a witch, so Noah insists they must inform the police, but Ellie reveals neither the authorities nor her parents believed her. An alarmed Noah then rushes to the beach, where he finds a piece of black cloth, and notices Miss Halverson in the distance. Later, he arrives at Gene's house, and thanks the old man for returning his backpack. He also apologizes for trespassing, claiming they had simply lost their way, but Gene clearly doesn't believe him. Noah then learns that Gene is a retired cop, and asks for his help in investigating last night's incident. He explains that a girl told him about an old witch, who dragged his friend into the water. But Gene dismisses the story as nonsense, and firmly shuts the door in his face to make him leave. When Noah returns home, Abby gives him a tray of food, and asks him to place it outside Miss Halverson's door without disturbing her. The boy heads to her room, where he hears Miss Halverson chanting something. And so, he uses a knife under the door to peek, but soon notices the woman directly staring at it, prompting him to bolt away. Meanwhile, Gene is at home watching old footage of his life and son, which makes him sad. He then decides to watch the news and soon comes across the report of Ben almost drowning last night. The next day, during a baseball game, Noah gets very agitated and gets into an argument with the umpire, who insults him. Just then, Gene arrives at the match, and gives Noah some instructions on how to play. He also says he will talk to his friend, which makes Noah feel hopeful. After the game, Noah takes the old man to see Ben, who is still in a trance-like state. When Gene inquires about what happened at the beach, Ben finally responds in a monotonous voice that he was simply pulled by the currents. He mentions seeing the bright light, but doesn't say anything about the old woman, so Gene dismisses it as nothing. An annoyed Noah claims that Ben is lying, but Gene argues that if he had been dragged underwater, there would be bruises or marks. That night, some teenagers are seen partying by the beach, and a boy notices an attractive girl, who also shows an interest in him. She entices him, and leads him into the woods to a place called No Man's Land. The boy hesitates because this place is a restricted area that was once a bombing range in World War II. But the girl, who is actually the witch, ignores his words and leads him there anyway. Soon, the boy's terrified screams echo through the trees, followed by a massive explosion. The next morning, Noah watches the news about the explosion from last night, and fortunately, the boy, whose name is Kevin, has only sustained minor injuries. But the disturbing thing is that he's now changed, and has the same soulless stare as Ben. And so, Gene invites Noah to No Man's Land, so they can investigate the events of the previous night. Gene begins inspecting the footprints, while Noah carefully follows behind him. They soon reach the explosion site, and Noah freezes in shock when he finds a small black cloth, just like the one he found on the beach, along with a broom. Next, Noah meets with Eugene and Sammy and shows them the items, proving that there's indeed a witch on the island. He did some research, and learned that witches must feed on children to survive, otherwise, they grow weak, and can even die. Witches can change their appearance to blend with ordinary people, and can use spells to control their minds. Afterward, Noah introduces Gene to his friends, who are scared at first, but he explains that he isn't a bad man, and is a retired detective. They then begin discussing the witch, who made a mistake this time by accidentally causing an explosion. They explore various theories on how to kill witches, including shooting them with silver bullets. The kids are confused as to why a witch wouldn't eat children, but instead turn them into brain-dead zombies, and send them home. Here, Gene suggests that maybe she kidnapped children elsewhere, but people started catching on, so she had to act subtly. He thus asks the kids to watch for anyone with burn marks, as the witch must have been injured during the explosion. That night, Noah notices Miss Halverson leaving the house, so he sneaks into her room, and begins snooping around. At this point, he's shocked to find a list filled with the names and birth dates of several children, including his friends. A shiver of dread courses through him when he comes across multiple sketches of his little sister. The next day, Noah shares his suspicions with his friends, and explains how everything began ever since Miss Halverson arrived in town. The kids decide to follow her with a camera, so they can catch her in the act. They soon see her entering the children's theater, and assume that she intends to snatch multiple children at once. Once inside, Noah notices Halverson about to touch a child, so he quickly pushes her, and they stumble onto the stage in front of a large audience. Eugene hurriedly throws holy water on her, but it does not affect the woman. Noah then tells everyone that this woman is a witch, but Miss Halverson insists she's just a children's author, and is here to give a reading. He questions her about the children's drawings, and she claims they are merely references for her illustrations. Noah also brings up the chanting in an unknown language, to which she angrily explains that she prays in Latin. After this humiliating incident, the furious woman decides to leave the lodging house, despite Abby begging for her forgiveness. Miss Halverson also demands the remaining money she had paid for the entire summer. Once the woman departs, Noah apologizes to his mom, but she angrily tells him to get out of her sight. In the evening, Noah arrives at Gene's home, and shares what happened, so the old man warns him that one wrong accusation can destroy a person's life forever. Noah then confides how much he misses his father, who was a journalist, and used to travel the world for stories. But in his last assignment, he got into an accident and tragically lost his life. Upon hearing this, Gene also shares about his son, who would have been 40 now. When the boy was just 5, he was snatched away by a man on a motorcycle right before his eyes. Gene tried to pursue them, but crashed into a tree, and they never found the kid. His wife eventually left him, and for the past 30 years, he has been trying to find his son. Gene then shows Noah his investigation board, and explains that his friend at the bureau provided a list of children who have gone missing from other towns. The next morning, Gene and Noah meet with the police chief and Edgar to explain that a predator is in town. But Edgar doesn't want to scare anyone, and the police chief also says every year, kids nearly drown in the sea, or get into accidents at no man's land. Gene tries to explain the bizarre behavior the children have been exhibiting, and points out other evidence, such as the black cloth. When they still refuse to believe him, Noah speaks up and claims a witch is behind all of this, only to be met with laughter from the adults. Afterward, Noah meets with his friends, but they also don't want to hang out with him because their parents think he's a bad influence. This prompts a frustrated Noah to head to the beach, where he throws his research diary into the water.
Come on, Ben.
Hey, come on, Ben.
You okay, bud? Huh?
The next day, after a baseball game, Noah is on his way home when he notices Eugene's bicycle and backpack abandoned in the woods. He searches for him, and soon finds Eugene in a terrified state. The boy reveals that someone chased him in here, and points into the distance. Noah is horrified when he sees a figure covered in black cloth, who warns him to stop sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. The two kids quickly flee the woods and reach their bicycles, and Eugene angrily tells Noah to stay away from him before running off. Frustrated, Noah checks his shoes and notices red algae. When Noah is heading home in the dark, a car suddenly appears out of nowhere and begins following him. He speeds as fast as he can, and soon reaches Gene's home. Noah explains that a car was chasing him, but when Gene looks outside, there's no vehicle in sight. Next, Gene tells Noah about a town in New Hampshire where the majority of the children had previously gone missing. He also tells him about Ronnie Harlow, who was the first child to reappear after going missing, and he also had the same soulless look. Gene then decides that he will travel to New Hampshire the next morning to meet Ronnie. The next day, Gene meets up with Ronnie, and tries to strike up a conversation with him. But the boy remains completely unresponsive, so Gene starts snooping around, and discovers a book about witches in his bag. He then notices an envelope, and inside, he finds several baseball team photos, along with a key. Using the key, Gene opens a small box he found in the closet, and uncovers the witch's map, a collection of newspaper clippings, and silver bullets. On the way home, Gene suddenly pulls over, and begins inspecting the witch's map, and the pictures he found. He notices that the photos depict baseball teams from different towns and periods, but the bizarre thing is that all of them have one thing in common, which is the same umpire. Elsewhere, Noah is in the middle of a baseball match when he catches a glimpse of red algae clinging to the umpire's shoes. Even worse, he notices a burned mark on the umpire's hand, and realizes that the witch he's been looking for was right in front of him all along. After the game, Noah meets with Eugene and Sammy, and tells them that the witch is none other than the umpire. Sammy calls it ridiculous, but Eugene, who has already encountered the witch, believes his friend. He says he knows the umpire's address, and the trio decides to head there to confront him. Not long after, the kids arrive at the umpire's house, armed with a camera and a baseball bat. They sneak inside while recording everything, and Noah is shocked when he discovers multiple fake IDs belonging to the umpire. Eugene and Sammy, on the other hand, discover several children's shoes. And then all of a sudden,
Look, Kevin, Ben, me. This is it.
Shortly after, the three kids wake up to find themselves tied up and gagged. The umpire then approaches them with 2 knives, claiming he has been fasting for months, and that his cravings have become unbearable. He scolds them for ruining his retirement plan, and rants about how difficult it is being a witch, having to hunt and eat children, while moving around 3 to 4 times a year. But in Martha's Vineyard, he finally has an endless supply of children, who come here every summer. He adds that drinking a child's youth doesn't fully satisfy his cravings, so he will eat the trio now. The umpire decides to eat Noah first, and touches him, right when the witch transforms into his true form, and drags Noah away, while the boy tosses his lighter to his friends. The witch takes Noah to the kitchen to slaughter him, while Sammy and Eugene use the lighter to free themselves from their restraints. After accidentally setting the curtain on fire, Sammy disarms the witch with the baseball bat, while Eugene rushes to help Noah with his restraints. And then, as the witch chases after them, the witch gets shot by Jean, but it doesn't affect the witch, who quickly gets up, so Jean replaces all the bullets with silver ones. When he shoots at the witch, her soul begins to release, proving the silver bullet works, but the witch quickly recovers, and Jean urges the kids to leave, saying he will handle the situation. The house is almost engulfed in flames, but Noah refuses to leave, and follows Jean to the basement to help him. However, he is horrified when the witch suddenly hurls Jean from a dark corner. Noah spots a gun on the floor and hurries to grab it, but the witch flings it out of reach. He then lifts Noah into the air and begins to suck the young boy's soul, but Jean shoots the witch and forces him to release Noah. The old man unleashes a barrage of shots, each one hurting the witch, until all the trapped souls are freed. In the end, the evil witch finally dies, and the released souls return to the children, where they belong. The scene then cuts to some time later, where we see Noah pouring his heart into a story about Jean, hoping to clear the bad rumors about him in the town. He shows the story to Edgar, who is impressed and finally agrees to publish it. In the next scene, Noah goes to see Jean, who thanks him for the article, and they talk about how some of the children have returned to normal. Noah can't help but worry about Ben, who is still the same, but the old man asks him to be patient. Days later, it is another baseball game, where Ben arrives to play, still in a catatonic state. But moments later, something amazing happens, as his soul finally returns to him, and he becomes normal again. Ben now plays the game with renewed spirit, and finally wins the match. His friends are overjoyed to see his comeback, and enthusiastically cheer him on. Elsewhere, Jean arrives to meet his ex-wife in the hope of rebuilding their relationship as the movie comes to an end. Okay guys, thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.